Well, guys, this is the shitty field. Wish I could say it's better than it looks, but it's not. This was the first corn I got put in, and it was looking real good. Ground worked up. The shame of it was, this field is always the one I had trouble working up, because this spot right here, it's really it's gray, just sticky, slimy, hard as a rock, almost granite clay, and it always works up in chunks. But man, this year it worked down beautiful, laid down, wasn't real chunky, nothing. I was like, oh right, there should be some corn down here. Well, I got it in the ground, and then that next week we got one. It was cold. It was only like upper 50s, low 60s, and then it was getting down close to, or getting down almost to, like, I think there was one night it got down to almost freezing. I think it was like 34, 35 degrees at night. And then we got like an inch and a half of pounding rain one day. So between the fact that it was colder than hell, the ground was wet, corn never germinated, it just sat there. Okay, that's fine. It's better to have it in the ground and have weather like that than to have it above ground and have weather like that. So that was fine. Well, then all of a sudden the rain stopped and it got warm out. Corn germinated, but the ground also crusted like a mother, and since it was packed from that rain to begin with, if we'd kept getting rain it would have been fine because the ground would have stayed soft. But no, it had to quit raining and get hot and get sunny all of a sudden, and the ground packed like a motherfucker. And I ran over it with a rotary hoe, but the ground was so freaking hard that I could get up in between the rows, but I couldn't get the hoe in the ground far enough to actually get in the row. So that's why it's worked from here to here, but it's not worked in the row. And the hell, how do you get out here? So needless to say, it didn't really come up for shit. I'm not even going to do a stand count on this field because it's just going to make me cry. But what did come up looks good. Unfortunately, you can tell there's a bunch of holes. Which is a shame because this field is really good dirt. There's something about this field and that field both. They will grow some hellacious corn if this doesn't happen to it. But I'm also kind of curious to see what happens, because the same thing happened to that field last year, and it looked about like this, and that field still made 170 bushel an acre. I don't think this one's going to be quite as good, but it should still make at least $1.50. I hope. That would be nice. And then to top it all off, this mess right here, when I got this field planted, there was just a little teeny tiny wet spot right about here that was small enough you could straddle it with a tractor. Well, I got done planting, and about a week later, all of a sudden, that little 5-foot diameter wet spot turned into, from right there all the way down to there, just sopping wet. Well, and it's nothing I did to the tile, because the tile's 2 foot down, so there ain't no way in hell I could A, hit it with tillage, or B, crush it from driving over it with a tractor. So, and the thing was, it smelled like sewage. Well, because great granddad built that house, our house, and then grandpa built that house, and the one they're in now. But back in, I think he started building them in sometime in the late 50s was when he started building houses out here. And when he started putting all of them in, there wasn't any sort of septic regulation. So basically the septic system consisted of field tile running down to the ditch. And that's what this was. These tiles are all still running, although mostly these houses now have actual septic systems, but a lot of them still have the gray water running off through these tile lines. Well, apparently that house, their septic system got plugged up, or they didn't have it pumped or something, and they started pumping raw sewage down this tile and plugged it, and it proceeded to start bubbling up out of the ground. So we had to take care of it. We didn't have a choice, because even if we'd let it go, it would have killed the corn anyway, so we were going to lose it one way or the other. Might as well fix it. So I'm going to go ahead and let that trench settle a little bit more, then I'll bring a tractor and a back blade out here and kind of buff the top of the pile off so I can drive over it, but still leave it mounded so it'll finish settling out and I don't got a big old hole come this fall. Although I will give it to this corn. This stuff right here probably came up through about 4 inches of dirt, because we had all the dirt out of the trench piled on this side, and I couldn't really, when I was backfilling the trench, judge the original grade, because it was all just wet, sloppy, muddy, nasty shit trying to shovel back into that trench. So that tells you a little bit of something about that corn, if it'll make it through that. How this came up and all this up here where it got compacted didn't come up, but basically what it all boils down to in a situation like this is I really need to get my own rotary hoe, because the one I was using was I'm guessing by the decals on it, like an late 50s, early 60s, probably. I'd put it at right around the 460, 560 vintage. It was an old International number 3-point rotary hoe, and it's one of the old styles that has the baskets with 2 gangs of hoe wheels, one behind the other. And this made me understand why they had quit building rotary hoes like that and went to a toolbar style, is because with them 2 gangs, the hoe's not flexible enough to deal with uneven ground like this, because my planter leaves a little bit of a trench, which in a dry year like this is great, because that's where all the water's going to run. In a wet year it's kind of but hell, even last year I didn't have any issues, so I don't really see a problem with it. But on a toolbar style rotary hoe, each hoe wheel is mounted on an individual spring-loaded arm, so the wheels actually would have got down in the row. But trying to find somebody to borrow a rotary hoe from this year was kind of a pain in the ass, because everybody had to run rotary hoe. There's a lot of ground this year got hoed because everybody had to, which is part of what doesn't make me feel, I mean, yeah, it's embarrassing. Yes, I'm going to lose yield. Yes, I hate the fact that it looks so shitty, but I don't feel too terrible about it, because everybody this year is having the same exact problem. Everything that got planted early got crushed over real bad, and there's a lot of corn and a lot of beans around here this year that look about like this. So, and it's not bad enough that it would have warranted replanting either. So I'm gonna guess the population somewhere around, averaged over the whole field, probably around 25,000-ish. Just looking at it, I don't know. Luckily though, this is the only field that really looks this bad. The other ones all got planted. I planted one other one the same day as this, but it was on lighter ground, And there's one small spot, well, it's that one out, that first cornfield I did a video of checking. There's a little spot back on a clay knob all the way up against the far fence line that looks about like this, but the rest of it all looks good. It's come out just about right. And then all the rest of the fields got planted during this dry spell, so they're all up and they're suffering from lack of water, not too much water. So, and I did get this part of this field sprayed yesterday, but it got too windy and it was starting to drift and it was starting to sprinkle. I got sprayed up to, my last pass was right here, right? Yeah, right there. So I got up to that set of 4 right there, and I was hoping to finish today, but it's too windy again. Plus, we're still supposed to have chances of thunderstorms. It rained. Get this, it rained a little bit yesterday, and I think it rained again a little bit last night. And guess what we got out of it? 3/100ths of an inch. Making big moves here when we're about 2.5 inches behind where we should be. And then the beans I got planted early, which they all got put in the same weekend I got this corn planted. They look pretty good. They all came up fairly even. I didn't have too much of a crusting issue because I plant them shallow. Mostly because I need to put heavier down pressure, or find some heavier down pressure springs that'll fit that drill, so I can actually push it into the ground, because right now the springs just kind of give up and you can't force it in. And then I couldn't plant this because everybody remembers that there's a spring in this field, but nobody can remember where it's at, because they used to water the horses out of it when my great-grandfather still owned the farm. And there's a spring that runs down through here somewhere, and it comes up in here, because this spot is we haven't had water and we're starting our 4th week. This is still wet. So I really need to get this sprayed off too, but I couldn't plant this because I couldn't. Tractor just flat out would not make it through here. None of them would. And so I just planted up to there, stubbed the rows off, and farm around it. We got tile. There's a tile stubbed off there, and there's a tile stubbed off there, and we're going to come in here and run a lateral that way and a lateral that way, and hopefully get this corner straightened out so I don't have to worry about this wet spot anymore, because it keeps getting bigger. But there's no existing tile here. Basically what happened when my great-grandfather decided to sell off the farm was supposedly they pushed it full of some fieldstone and then just covered it up. Which is part of the reason it causes problem, is because when you do something like that to a spring, it'll just move. So yeah, this corner right here looks like hell. But is what it is. And then the beans are not doing too much better. Basically, when I planted these, anything that got planted in a spot where it was a little wet popped up. Everything else is sitting here waiting on rain. And there's one just came up. So the spot there, the bald spots are filling in. They're just filling in slowly. We do finally have some moisture. There's one. There's one. There's one. And the thing is, it's hard to judge because there's still seed that hasn't germinated yet. Because I've been looking at other fields, and you'll be walking along, and there'll be, you know, there'll be stuff that's got its second and third trifoliate out like that, and then you walk around and you'll see stuff like this, and then you'll walk around and you'll find seeds that are still, they're just sitting there because they haven't had enough moisture to germinate yet. There's one right there. There's one right there. 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 So I'm shooting that one off. So luckily the fields that have come up are filling in, and it looks like I need to get this one sprayed when the wind finally dies down. Hopefully, the fact that I planted them 3-1 beans and they're supposed to be a little bushier, hopefully that will they'll fill out and get bushy and still put on a lot of pods and kind of make up for the fact that it didn't all come up even. And because the problem with stuff like this is you want everything you want to come up even, because anything that comes up late basically becomes a weed. All it is competition for the plants that did come up, and the bigger plants are going to win the fight, and that plant that came up late is never going to produce like it should have. But ain't a whole lot you can do about it except take what you're handed. And there's a lot of drill beans around here this year that look about like this too. It's not even a thing that it's my equipment. It's not anything I did wrong. It's just this is the hand we're dealt this year. So it does make you feel a little better when the guys with brand spanking new fresh off the lot for 2015, 2016 equipment that are having the same exact freaking problems, even though they threw a shit ton of money at their equipment. So just goes to show newer is not always better. We all still got to fight the same fight, no matter how much money you throw at it. Sure, there's a bean seed or two rolling around in that pile of dirt somewhere. But anyway, that's just kind of a little update as to where we're at. No rain. Fields look like shit. Welcome to 2016. Hopefully there'll be something here for me to combine this fall. Yeah, they're there. One there. There's two of them. Welcome to farming. But I guess that does it for this one. We'll catch y'all on the next one.